curious. It's like your home is where?
Home is in Beaune, in Burgundy.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you've been there, but it's a small town in the heart of what we call the Côte d'Or.
Uh-huh.
Côte de Beaune, Côte de Nuit, and in between those two, there's a nice town called Beaune, famous by the hospital, Hospice de Beaune. And so the winery is in Beaune, and the vineyards are all over the côte.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
And so you live most of the year. You live there.
Yes, most of the year I live there. I work in the winery there, and always have been living there because I was born in Burgundy, in Beaune. Went to school there, then went to university in Dijon, and then had a few experiences here or there. Came to Oregon.
And I'm kind of curious, it's like when you and I guess your father came to Oregon, it's like, what was it that sold you on Oregon? I know there was the competition, the famous competition and all that, but what was it when you
The very first time, the reason I came here was I was just out of University of Dijon. I had been to Bordeaux for one vintage, and did want some experience outside of Burgundy. And my father had quite a few friends, or still has a few friends in California, by the business of selling the Burgundy wines. He was traveling and being interested in the winemaking aspect. Went to visit wineries in California, make friends. And so I said, do you think a winery in California would take me for harvest? And he said, I think so. But then he recommended I come to Oregon because he had some Pinot from Oregon that he liked, or maybe thought potentially would be beautiful wines, if technically not perfect.
And this was before the
this
winery
was before. Oh yeah, this was before the winery. This was in the 80s.
In the 80s.
In the 80s,
okay.
and so I said fine. So we wrote to our distributor here of the Drouhin wines from France. Of course, sells wine from wineries. At the time, very few wineries, David Led, David Adelsheim, and Castilles. And so they asked if one of them would take me for harvest. The three of them said yes.
All three of them?
Which was very nice, because they didn't know me, they hadn't seen me before.
Yeah.
So anyway, I came in 86 and had a wonderful experience. And then we kind of built some really nice relation with quite a few people here. But of course, David Lett and David Adelsheim, and Bethel Heights, because I spent so much time with them and had the most best time. I think they also maybe thought if we were interested in coming here, it would be sort of a credibility for the country, for the state, to have a Burgundy producer come here. So it didn't take much to convince my father to come here. And when the land here was up on the market, was for sale, David Adelsheim called my father and said, you might be interested because it's a beautiful site close to David Lett, who made the Pinot that impressed so much my father. Yeah. And so my father said, well, let's try. So we bought the land, and then we had no vineyards, we had no winery. And so he said we should try and make wine, buy fruit, find a place, bring equipment, make some wine and see what we can do. Yeah. And that we did in 88. So I came here in 86, we bought the land in 87. We brought the fruit and equipment and made the first wine in 88. Loved what we saw, and really had a very good experience, even though it was not easy to make the wine because the conditions of the equipment, the place we were, not so easy. And so from there, we said, let's build a winery and plant vineyards. Yeah. So my brother got very involved in the plantation program. Was choosing clones and rootstock and so on. And your brother, that's Philippe, my oldest brother. Yes, Philippe. So he's a viticulturist. So he oversees the viticulture here and in Burgundy. And of course, Alan and his team do the work during the year. Yeah. And then we had the winery in 89. So made the first wine of 89 here. And since then, it just has been a great adventure. This year is my 20th vintage. Is that
right?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, 20 vintages this year. Hard to believe, because for me it was
like... You don't seem that old. I mean, you must have started when you were 12.
Well, I think the Pinot Noir keeps everybody young here.
So what is it? I'm kind of curious. It's like this book that I'm doing is on Oregon wine.
Yes.
So what was it about Oregon in this Willamette Valley that was so intriguing?
I think the climate here is extremely suitable to the variety to enhance what Pinot Noir has to give, which is elegance and complexity. And not too many places in the world. It's a very tricky grape, first to grow, not easy, And second, to make wine, it's not difficult to make wine from Pinot Noir, but it's difficult to make great, elegant, and complex wine from Pinot Noir. And Oregon has this, combination of soil and weather that makes makes it possible. It's not.
So what is it about the weather that?
It's a cool climate. So you've heard probably the story many times that the Pinot likes warm days and cool nights. That is one of the elements that contributes to the development of the flavors or potential flavors that you don't taste when you eat the berry, but they are captured in the skin, and later on during fermentation they are developed. But if it's too warm, then those flavors still, again, you don't taste that when you taste the berry, but the flavors tend to be cooked or a little bit jammed. If it's too warm, the grape goes overripe. I often give the example that in France, Bordeaux has a warmer climate than Burgundy. Does not produce any Pinot Noir, none, zero. It's actually forbidden there. And Burgundy has a cool climate, doesn't produce any Cabernet. So every grape variety needs to find its best location. And what I've read, and I think it's true, is it will give the best of itself in the most northern limit where it can grow, for the northern atmosphere, and of course for the southern
Pinot.
No, it's true for every variety, I think. Yeah. If it's too cold, then the Pinot Noir won't do very well. It won't get ripe. So if you go too much north, then it might be too. Except if you go to some, like Washington is too warm in the Walla Valley, because there it's not like here. It's very warm, although it's normal. But if you go to Champagne in France, for example, they use Pinot Noir for the sparkling because they like it almost unripe. So it's very difficult to find for Pinot the best weather conditions, so it gets ripe but not too much, but it does get ripe. And like this year is the limit. I mean, we do have good ripeness, but not over ripeness. The last few years it was almost a little bit too ripe. Too warm because the sugars were very high, and for Pinot you don't need very high sugar. Not in that to get the flavors very elegant and complex. Actually I prefer when they're not so high. Yeah, like this year, I think it's perfect.
This is good.
Yeah, I think it's good.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's good.
And the rain, I mean, this has been a little bit rainier than the last, say, 10 years or so. Yes,
some rain is okay. Too much rain is a concern. Some rain, it's no problem. I mean, the plant may take some. The berries might be a little bit bigger because they take some of the rain. But if it stops and then you have, even if it's not a very sunny day, but if you have some wind and days with a little bit of sunshine, that will dry out. It's no problem. The problem is if you get rain and it doesn't stop for a week, then it's very hard to pick, or you can't really pick. You bring very wet fruit in the winery, bring a lot of mud in the winery. So the concern is when it doesn't stop raining. But the rain we had a couple of really nice stormy rain, but the soil here drains amazingly fast. The next morning you can walk in the vineyard and you don't have, like in Burgundy, you would get this much.
Is that right?
Yeah, because the soil is very sticky in Burgundy. It's marl soil, and the mud gets very sticky. Here it gets slippery, but they don't stick so much on your boots.
Well, that's one of the questions I wanted to ask you, is like the differences. Like we hear so much, it's like Burgundy. Like what are the differences and what are the similarities?
Well, the biggest difference is the soil.
The soil, okay.
The soil has nothing to do in Burgundy. And actually for us it was a surprise to make Pinot Noir, excellent Pinot Noir, and so, not so similar, but with some very similar characteristic of the Burgundy Pinot, with such a different soil. But I like to say it's really not Burgundy. So it's not a photocopy of Burgundy because of the soil. The climate conditions are very similar, and that's the reason we chose Oregon.
Well, but the climate conditions, though, isn't Burgundy, doesn't it rain year-round?
It does rain year-round. The amount of rain we get in Burgundy and Oregon is pretty much the same, except here it rains a lot in the winter. It's quite dry in the summer. Where Burgundy rains more in the winter than the summer. We still get some rain in the summer. So the overall rainfall is the same, it just doesn't come at the same time. But the temperatures are quite similar. If you compare them, they're very similar.
Even during the summers?
Well, except the last few years. But this summer here was fairly, I would say, normal. Not too warm.
And the soil now. In Burgundy, the soil, you say, is sticky. So
it's
more like
marl limestone
Limestone, okay.
It's limestone. It's and like here, it's volcanic soil. It's none of that. Here you have basalt. Old basalt is pretty old soil. Burgundy is also very old soil. It's a deposit of the sea was covering Burgundy, and for you say centuries, the sea was covering, so piling up some sediments.
Yes.
Until the sea went away, the Alps raised, and the Alps is on this side, and then you have the whole valley floor. Everything was flat, and then the Alps came up, and this part went down. And so the coast is here. So what happened here is this shifted like this, and so I have all these layers of soil that makes Burgundy very interesting but confusing for people because you have so many different type of soils making so many different wines.
So as you go down the hill, the soil changes.
Yes, as you go down the hill and as you go up and down the coast. If you go north to south, you have different, because then the coast went like a pile of plates that tilt and then breaks. And so you had some cracks happening.
Yes.
So the soil could be the same here, and then you find the same type of soil there, and again here. So the hills go like that. So it's fascinating, really fascinating there. In Burgundy, we don't sell Pinot Noir. We sell Pommard, Gevrey, Chambertin, Chambol, Musigny, different names. Everything is Pinot Noir.
Right.
But it's beyond that. It's a location that is different from the next one that makes a wine very subtle nuances, but they're there and consistently for 2,000 years. The monks were the first one to start writing down that Gevrey Chambertin is more structured and powerful than a Chambol, and it still is the same.
Yeah.
We know Chambol will be very elegant wine, just because on Chambol area sits on the hill, there's more clay in the soil, and that reflects in the wine in something softer. There's more silkiness to this texture.
That's interesting.
200 years ago it was the same.
Yeah.
Oh, it's very interesting.
Well, do you find that here too?
I think we will find some nuances, but it takes time. It's one harvest a year, so it's a very slow experience that you gain. But we already can see here that the Dun Hills, for example, tend to give wine maybe of a sort of lighter texture, not so big, not so tannic. A little bit more south of here, the Eole Hills gives a bit more spiciness, more color. So we start to see, yes, we do start to see nuances.
I was at Bethel Heights one time and had wine from two different blocks, one adjacent to the other.
And there were different.
And you could taste the difference.
The difference.
Yeah, because like one was a little bit more basaltic than the other.
Yeah, so you see.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah, the soil, even here we see, if you look at the vineyards, especially on the hill, the hill goes down, but then there might be a little thing like that. The vines are different here. They act differently. They turn yellow more quickly. The soil is more shallow, so the roots don't go so deep. They have to find their way somewhere, I don't know, around stones or something.
Yeah.
And so it's a very slow, very slow to learn. It takes time. The learning process. Yeah. So we'll make our experience and we keep notes of everything every year, the wines, the blocks, for I don't know for how many years we'll do it, and then hopefully the next generation or who comes after will continue, and then that's how you build.
Yeah. And so when you think in those kinds of terms, you're thinking in hundreds of years then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you think for the future.
Yeah.
Yes. But you think also for every day. You have to decide, do I want to adapt the style of the wine I make to what people want, or should I make the wine that I think I like very much and then people will adapt? I think it's a bit of both.
Wow.
But I tend to, we have a philosophy of how we see the Pinot Noir should be handled.
And so then you're living within the structure of your family traditions.
A little, yes. Yeah. But you always try to, we do a lot of experiments. Some here, but a lot in Burgundy. Here it's more viticulture experiment and winemaking. But Burgundy we do a lot of, so just to keep update with what's new, with the new equipment, new techniques developed, we always try them, but we never forget tradition.
Yeah. It's
not to replace the tradition, it's just to help in case, or to try new things.
Yeah. That's one of the things I'm really curious about is like in Burgundy, you have such a long tradition. In Oregon, it's like, cowboy days. And how is the culture different in Burgundy than here in Oregon, the wine culture? And that's like people that come in and taste your wine, to other winemakers, to your experience in Oregon as compared to Burgundy.
Well, the wine culture in Burgundy, I would say all my friends in Burgundy, their parents made the wine and their grandparents made the wine before. And it's just, for them, it's a normal situation,
Yeah.
except that my generation, I think, is very lucky to travel more than our parents did, grandparents even. The grandparents really hardly left their villages.
Yeah.
We gain more experience by traveling. Like the people I have here, one is from Chile, one is from Burgundy. Last year I had people from Italy. So this whole new generation benefits from the experience of the world. So the culture in Burgundy is not changing, but I think it's opening to the rest of the world. Where Burgundy was a little bit, I make Bourgogne, and it's maybe the best Pinot in the world. Well, maybe it is, I don't know. I think some of the locations will be very hard to beat, but it's important to be open and not think because it's Burgundy, it's going to be good and it's going to sell.
Yeah.
I think the new generation understand there's world competition. You have to be very good in your work in the vineyards, in winemaking. And here, here it's the same, but just people are doing their own experience, but they travel as much as the people in Burgundy. They have a lot of knowledge. I did see here in 20
The people
years.
here have a lot of knowledge.
Yeah, they do, because they're very demanding for information, for exchange, and I think over 20 years, the work in the vineyards and on the wines has been amazing.
Here?
Yes,
in,
here.
In what way?
Improvement in the viticulture, of not just because better knowledge, or we know better in which direction we should go.
Yeah.
People have better equipment. When we came here, there was no lab, no store where you could buy anything for winemaking. Everything had to come from California. You would make wine in a garage, you would make in a barn, now you have temperature controlled tanks, you have a lab that can do analysis. Before it was like a little bit stick the wind and see where it goes from. Yes. That, I think the overall quality of Oregon wine has increased a lot. And the vines get older, that helps. An old vine gives better wine than a young vine.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's still planting a lot, but some of the vines here are getting somewhat old, 20, 25 years, and they give more consistent fruit.
The older vines.
Yes, more quality, consistent fruit. So that plus the new equipment, plus the better knowledge, makes the whole quality of the wine going up.
Yeah. So what have you learned from being here in Oregon and making wine here in Oregon?
I would say it's more I don't know, because I'm so lucky to be working both places that there's not much on the winemaking that I've learned. I think it's more how to understand the clones, because in Burgundy vines are old, they've been there for a long time.
Yeah.
But here we play with blocks that have some rootstock, some clones, and then another rootstock, the same clone, then a different rootstock with two different clones. And so to me, just to see what the soil gives us. More the winemaking, I don't play that much with the fruit. To me, once I get it, I can't do miracles. Unless there is a very difficult situation, then we'll try to use the tricks we have with some, enzyme, yeast, heating, cooling, and so on. But otherwise, I usually don't do much on the fruit.
Just let the fruit stay.
Well, there's some work to do, but I'm pretty gentle with the fruit.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to keep all the blocks separate and see what we think seems to be the best suited here for the soil we have.
Yeah. And so, what do you see? Because you have an interesting perspective, because you're making wine in Burgundy and you're making wine here too, and there's not many winemakers in the Oregon area that are doing that. A few, but not many. And so, I'm kind of curious, is like when you look out here on the Oregon landscape, what do you see in the future?
We don't have the same challenges here in Oregon and Burgundy. The challenge we have in Burgundy is we need to deal with fruit that's very fragile, more than here, very sensitive to botrytis, for example. Like this year, a very good example. We had a beautiful weather in September, very cool summer. Botrytis develops so quickly in Burgundy, and a couple of days could be. So you're always in a race. Do I pick the grapes, but it's not ripe, or do I let that ripe, but they will completely rotten? So it's always a sort of a battle. Not every year, but often. Here, you get some rain, so I'm going to wait because it's not fully ripe. Unless the Fonquin says the next 10 days will be very wet. You don't worry too much because you know the fruit is so healthy and will stay healthy that you don't worry too much on the quality. Now in Burgundy, if you get nice fruit or if you sort well and you bring in the wine with good fruit, you're pretty sure the wines will be elegant, will be complex, which is what I'm looking for. Here, it's not obvious. So you need to be careful not to try and extract too much, otherwise the wines are nice but not very complex. And when I say complex, I mean very long finish,
Long finish.
very elegant. They can be very well made, nice color, good structure but short. And to me, Pinot, so it's not a big challenge. You just need to be gentle and careful, not using oak carefully.
And you said that the fruit in Burgundy seem to be different than the fruit here.
It's more fragile. I think the skin tend to be a little bit thinner. Maybe they get more sunshine here in the summer, which kind of builds, when you get sun. A little thicker, yes. So probably the summer climate makes the conditions are better for the fruit here than in Burgundy. It's less humidity, ambience. Where Burgundy doesn't drain the water so much, the humidity stays on the soil. And so if it's humid outside, then the fruit will rotten very quickly. Here you always get a breeze. You're much closer to the ocean than we are in Burgundy, so you always get a little bit of breeze that will dry. The soil drains quickly, so the conditions are easier to grow Pinot here.
That's interesting.
Yes.
And the soils in Burgundy, then you said they're heavy and so they don't drain as well.
Because the clay will retain some of the water, so they don't drain as well. It's a lot rockier. There's lots of rocks. It's very nice. There's a lot of big limestone rocks everywhere in Burgundy. Chablis is the highest limestone level in France, certainly.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. Grand region, yes.
Shoot, I forgot what.
10 more minutes.
Okay, 10 more minutes. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really has been for me. It has been very fantastic to follow almost the industry start. It was started by David Lett in the 60s, but
actually there were some people before.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I thought David was the first one to.
It maybe even in the Willamette Valley, David wasn't the first.
Oh, I thought he was the first one.
Oh no, there was a couple of guys here in the Willamette post-Prohibition, even in the 1800s.
Really?
There were people growing grapes here
to
and
make
making wine.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, and then down in the Umpqua area, I just actually met with the guy that was the first guy in the very early '61. He planted vines, including Pinot.
Is that right?
Yeah, and there's some old vines down there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
My father remembers that when one of the first trip he took to California to meet his distributor, said, Robert, I will take you to Oregon. He was very young. He said, I'll take you to Oregon. The coast, the drive from the coast to Oregon is beautiful. So they drove up the coast, came to Oregon, and then my father remembers, he said, that would be a nice place to grow grapes.
Is that right?
1961, I think it was.
And that was in here?
In
the Willamette?
Yeah, they came all the way. Yeah, because the drive is, I've done it 2 times. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
You take the one that is on the coast, not the freeway, but the one on the coast.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I'm kind of curious, like this will be the last question, is like you come from tradition, and sometimes tradition, it's like I'm an immigrant into the United States, and I have a tradition, a Latvian tradition, and sometimes that can box you in,
Yeah.
And then there's other times it's a good foundation.
Yes.
You know, how has that been for you?
Oh, I feel very lucky to have the tradition because it's like you say, it's the foundation. But you don't need to. You shouldn't stay like this. You need to be really open to what's going on. So I'm always thinking that I'm not up to date with what's going on. So I always love to be with older winemakers in Burgundy, or even my father. He has 50 years experience because they will tell you. I remember that year. Like 2003 was very hot. We did this and this mistake. We didn't know. The conditions were abnormal.
Yeah.
If we were to do it again, that's what we would do. So you take so much information for those people who. So I feel very lucky that I can get some of their experience they share. But on the other hand, I feel also lucky to have lots of friends that say, "Oh, I've tried this. You should try that." Or if you have a problem, you say, "Oh, I have a problem. Oh, I tried that." To help you with this problem, you should try this.
Well, and do you find that here in Oregon too? It's like
yes.
that you can call.
Oh yes. Yeah. This morning I called Erath Winery. They have a new sorting table. I said, "Can I come and see it? I would like to improve our system. It's 20 years old and could be certainly improved." No problem. Come, took a bottle of wine, went to see them, and I say, "Come with your crew anytime," and he was very happy. And but it's the same in Burgundy. I have a group of friends that very good producer, we meet when we can, once a month or once every other month, just to taste wine, our wines, other people's wine, not to criticize, just to learn from each other, to share.
Yeah.
And I find here it's very nice, the wine industry likes each other. I mean, it's all competition, but still, if you look on the map, Oregon is relatively small in terms of production. Right now, the demand for Pinot is big. It won't last, maybe, and so there might be a point where there will be like in Australia, a bit too much production. So we need to be careful. It's very nice to be in this situation where there's more demand than supply, but still need to be careful.
So what's the next wine? What's the next varietal?
I'm not doing Pinot Gris, but I know Pinot Gris in Oregon is doing very well.
Yeah.
I think Riesling might be interesting. There's some cool spots. I've had some really wonderful Riesling. Sadly, some people pull them out because there's no market for Riesling. But it might be, in Europe, it's a variety that's becoming more popular. So I think Riesling could be a variety that becomes more popular. I'm not sure. I don't know. Just a guess.
But you have to think, a number of years ahead.
Yeah, you do. Because, once you get into the program, it takes 3 years to get grapes, but it takes a couple of years to plant them. Yeah. And so if you think I'm planting next year, so 2008, some vines, 8, 9, 10, it's only in 2011, 2012 that you will actually sell the first bottle.
And what are you planting?
No, right now we plant Pinot.
Yeah.
Plant Pinot.
So it's going to stay.
Yes.
I'd like to take some photographs if I could.